Welcome to the BXG podcast where pop culture and nerd culture meet at the nexus of the universe and are melded as seamlessly as Cologne and Centaurs. I am one of your hosts, Brenton Beswick, alongside my co-host, Greg Filson, a man who possesses pens who can write upside down. Some would say astronaut pens. How are you doing, Greg?
Some would say I'm doing well. It's a big week. Finally, I don't know if things aren't getting back to normal, but doesn't really matter. I booked a trip to Miami, Labor Day weekend. Janie and I are going to Miami. I thought about getting a Ferrari. Not doing that, a little too expensive for the guy, but that's okay. I'm still going to get some sort of convertible and act like a douchebag. Just want to get some like sunglasses that look terrible. I like the ones that Aaron Rodgers wore to when he walked into camp the other day. And I feel like, he's a douchebag. So, win one more Super Bowl, then maybe you can talk shit. But anyhow, and Janie's new job starts. So it's a big week in the old Philson Thompson household, and I'm looking forward to a little Miami. I'm hoping to run into Dwayne Wade and we shoot some hoops together. And give me a little tips on my mid-range J.
Maybe Will Smith would be.
I don't think he actually lives there though.
Oh, he just sings about it.
Yeah, but I think Dwayne Wade definitely lives there. I could run into Tiger Woods, see how his knee's doing.
Yeah.
Who else lives in Miami?
I
think it's Coral Gables is actually where Tiger Woods lives. Close. Maybe I'll go up and I'll visit him. He invites me over.
I got nothing.
I could go to Tampa and see if Tom Brady wants to toss the old pigskin around. A real quarterback.
Where are they? Do they have training?
Tampa's 4 hours from Miami.
In Tampa? Because they're in training camp, though. Because it's training camp.
It'd be funny if they were in Miami. I was running into Tom Brady and be like,
I don't know.
Come boys.
All right, whatever. I don't. Does it even matter anymore?
No, nothing matters.
When you said it's getting back to normal, if normal is having to wear masks again.
Well, maybe that is. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm going to be double vaxxed in like 3 weeks, so whatever.
Yeah. That actually reminds me of something. Housekeeping BXG podcast publishes every Friday at 12 p.m. on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, and other podcast services around the globe. Official BXG social media accounts. Instagram at BXG Podcast, Twitter at BXG Podcast, Instagram at GTFills@Y2B, Facebook.com/BXG Podcast, YouTube.com BXG Podcast. You can see the Space Jam review. Not great. I think we're in agreement on that. It has some redeeming qualities, just not many of them. We have also the video of the review with Dallas for the Sob Rock John Mayer conversation, which was good. And I think it kind of showed that sometimes maybe certain topics come up that we need to talk about, but also maybe one of us is out of our depth. Sure. And to that end, we're going to have a guest here in a little bit. We've brought back our friend Ty, who's going to join us to talk about some of the things that are going on in the gaming sphere with some of the legal ramifications that one of the big publishers has run into. But in the meantime, we do have actually a listener inquiry. JJ Kish wrote in and he said that he took your assessment of The Rock's acting as quite the affront. He's in vehement disagreement, as am I. But what he has asked you to do is to basically use the value over replacement player formula and take any one of The Rock's movies and say, okay, The Rock is a replacement level actor. Okay. Who is someone that would have been made that movie better?
That's a good question. I just don't like the movie. So maybe that could be it too. I mean, it's just the fact that he's not good in them and the movies aren't good. I don't even know if like anyone makes them better. I just don't think the movies are good. So maybe that's actually my response. It's like sort of a cop out. I don't think the movies are ever intended to be good. They're just rock movies and they're silly. and you get through them, and maybe they're actiony. I think that's a fair question. I think that's kind of a weird, in a sense, it's like, well, I wouldn't want someone else to play, Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible either. I mean, at this point, when you're associated with like a certain thing, and The Rock is associated with these actiony, comical kind of things that to me are never that good. Wrestlers just aren't good actors, and he's not Dave Bautista level bad, and he's exactly here. The thing is, I get it, I just don't enjoy it. That's what I'll say about The Rock. I get it why he's popular, and I think he's a cool dude. I get why he's popular. It's not my thing. That's just where I'm at with it. It's a little too much of everything. It's not enough of something. Like I wish it was just more action, or it was more humor when he's doing these action movies, instead of, it has to be a little combination of both. And he's just not a versatile enough actor to do these movies. But I also think those movies just really bad plots too. So that is my answer. Fair question. I don't have a real good answer because I just don't really like movies.
Dive and dodge, because
that's what exactly
with that one. I'm going to tell you, you're on the wrong side of history, and everybody has opinions. Opinions are like assholes. Everybody has them, and some of them stink. And on this one, yours does. We're going to bring in.
Just name me a good Rock movie that's
Jumanji.
like rewatchable. Rewatchable? No,
Jumanji.
Rewatchable.
I've watched it 4 times.
Oh my God, I haven't. You have kids, though. That's different.
I haven't watched it. Moana's
not a Rock movie, though.
How is
I'm
it
talking
not?
about him on. You have to be on the screen.
Maui.
You have to be on the screen. I haven't seen it either, because I have a thing. I don't know. Maybe there's just something I've seen the action movies, and they're so silly that I get away.
When was
from
the last time you saw a movie with The Rock in it? Like legit.
The one with the building that comes crashing down. He's got to like save his wife, and what it's called. It's not that.
It's not San Andreas.
It's the one where his leg gets like blown off. He has like the one leg. That movie's like, it's fine, but it's just like, I saw it once. I'll never see it again.
I'll be honest. That's one of the ones I haven't seen.
And I'll 100% say I understand I'm in the minority, and this is the wrong thing. Janie loves the movies too. This is just me. I am on my little island here. I'm fine with my little island. I got my Mai Tais. I'm fine.
Right. Well, stay out there on your island, and you can find Wilson or whatever Castaway. We bring in at this time, we're going to go ahead and start topic number 1. It is it's the overall gaming news, but there's been one thing that's been very very large this week that has kind of enveloped the entire industry, and then some other smaller tidbits that are also big deals. But I'm going to kind of go through this, and first of all, let's welcome in our friend Ty. Welcome back.
Good evening, boys.
Hey, Ty.
Thanks
back
for having me back. Good to be here. That's a nice little Dodger dog you got there.
4th member of the program.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the big news this week is Activision-Blizzard, who is most well known for as being the publisher of the money printing franchise Call of Duty, as well as some of the games in the Blizzard stable, World of Warcraft and Diablo, those sorts of things, have been embroiled in some pretty rough controversy. The developer and publisher is being sued by the state of California's Department of Fair Employment and Housing over a, quote, frat house culture in which female employees are subjected to sexual harassment, unequal pay, lack of advancement in the company, and retaliation against them for HR disputes. The suit alleges that Blizzard president J. Allen Brack was aware of the allegations and did not take appropriate action to protect his employees. Activision has responded by claiming that the Blizzard of today is not the same as when the investigation started 2 years ago. It's actually started closer to 3 years ago. The suit says 2 years, but it actually started in 2018. And that they have worked to create a safer and more equal workplace. Before we kind of bring in some of the other things that are just kind of going on around, not just with Activision, but with World of Warcraft and Bungie, who used to be a studio under the Activision-Blizzard umbrella, and then some of the troubles over at Ubisoft. We'll bring in, I'll just kind of kick it over to you, Ty, because you were, you had sent me a message about this, like, what's going on? What do you know about this? So, what is your understanding of some of these developments and maybe why this is kind of it's obviously a bad look for one of the biggest publishers in gaming, but what are your kind of general thoughts on this?
So the big matzo ball hanging out there for me is they have Diablo 4 like about to be released, right? It's supposed to be coming out in like the next couple of months, maybe 6 months at the most, spring of 2022 or something, maybe fall of 2021. And they have the resurrection of Diablo 2, which is basically the biggest game ever. Maybe sans World of Warcraft, I guess, but
for Blizzard specifically.
Yeah, like I don't know anything about revenue for video games. I just know that Activision-Blizzard makes more money than God as far as this stuff is concerned, with these massive multiplayer online, formats. And there's a resurrection of that for a reason. People played that game for a decade, and World of Warcraft has been going since 2004, and it's still really, really popular. So,
right.
They have a lot to lose with a big release. Like, Diablo 3 was a big release and they kind of fouled it up and still made a ton of money for them. And
that game went through kind of development hell. Just for clarification, Diablo 4 not looking like probably until 2023 at this point. It's also worth noting that they held back an Overwatch map. Basically, they've shut down everything over the course of this in the last week, and there's been further developments throughout the week as far as things go. I think it's important to discuss the suit itself. I would refer people, if they're interested in the kind of the ins and outs of the lawsuit and that sort of thing, that there's a really good YouTube channel that handles legal stuff in video games. It's called it's Hogue Law is the channel, but it's this lawyer up in Michigan, but he does these shows called Virtual Legality, and he's done videos like almost every day since this broke, of like what's going on, what the developments are, and things like that. There is I believe he said there was 13 charges of complaints, 12 of which were based on discriminatory practices within Activision Blizzard, specifically targeting women and women of color, not hiring them at the right time, not promoting them at the right time. They're getting terminated when men of the same position are kind of having the same quality of work, that sort of thing, or like actions to be terminated for. There's really only one complaint of harassment, which is what's getting all the headlines, the frat boy culture and things like that. But I think that this has some teeth because they've been investigating this now for almost 3 years. And what's really interesting, and I learned this, I learned this through kind of listening to those videos, is that, and Greg might be able to speak to this, being that he's a California resident, but California labor law has a step that before things go to court, there's a mandatory mediation between the company and the employees, so that if there are complaints like this, the state will come in and try to mediate these things so that it doesn't, go to trial. And basically, from what I gather, I could be wrong, Activision Blizzard is just saying, nah, we're not doing anything wrong. Or they're saying that a lot of this happened a long time ago. They're saying that, some of the bad actors who were involved in this have since been gone. There were like allegations that they were having like cube crawls at work, where they were just hosting keggers in the office, and they're just like going around, and to the different cubes and like getting trashed and harassing these women. So I do think it's important to kind of understand the ins and outs of the lawsuit, but I would also add, how does this make you look at, this company who they've got, they have Diablo, and World of Warcraft is also huge, but Call of Duty is the thing. It's the best selling game every year. So how do you, as a gamer who plays a lot of these games, especially I know you're a huge Diablo fan, reconcile, the morality of whether or not they're treating their employees, specifically their female employees, like crap, supporting them by playing their games?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely makes a difference. I don't know. I've read several things in the last, like, since the Me Too movement has happened, where, cancel culture has kind of become pervasive in different things. And I don't know where I read or heard this or what research I've done to back this up, but like boycotting things doesn't work. It doesn't change anything. Like, you can say, I'm not going to buy Ford trucks because their commercials are geared too much towards a macho man mentality or something. It needs to be more geared towards women. Like, Ford's still going to make vehicles. They're still going to do their thing. So, not playing the game because I don't agree with them morally is not going to change a damn thing in the broader scope of things. It would make me feel better if that was what my objective was. But, and even trying to be that little, like, trickle down effect of, you make a difference, your one vote counts, that whole nine. Like, I don't think that actually, in a situation like this, there's so many dollars involved, there's so many moving pieces involved in a greater sense that we as consumers of this product don't really move the needle. So it's a really good question. This is going to be kind of a cop-out answer, but I think that I'll give you a strange one-off here. Nikki and I watched a movie called Seaspiracy the other day. It's about the fishing of the oceans and how...
Fuck the oceans. Continue.
Yeah. How, like, all, even like in hatcheries and, fish farms and stuff like that, basically the salmon that you're eating is just like white and they color it pink and all this stuff. All of the straw that was in the tortoise's nose that went viral, straws make up like a tenth of a 50th of a 1,000th% of the plastic in the oceans. But that's, don't have a straw with your soda pop. So, long story short, the fishing nets is what's actually the biggest problem in polluting the oceans. And if you eat fish, you're adding to the problem. So you get through this whole big long movie, and it's just basically a big documentary telling you not to eat fish, because if you do, then you're screwing the planet.
Best picture.
Chalk
it up.
Yeah. So I think that you could extrapolate this to literally anything you want. I'm holding a roll of masking tape here. You could probably do some research into this. And like I said, this is probably the worst answer of all time for this specific question, but there's a ton of things that could probably be looked at and how this roll of masking tape was constructed and distributed that is just like super inefficient, not sustainable, should be changed. And you could take it out to literally anything that you consume on a daily basis or a weekly basis or whatever. And I think that circles back to you trying to boycott something is not actually going to have an impact on the greater world or the greater economy of scales. So am I going to buy Diablo 4 when it comes out? 100%. Am I going to feel like I'm supporting frat boy culture and rapists and people that are like talking down towards women and degrading them? 0%. No.
I will just add on this thing. This is where, when it's a big company, it's the big boys in charge that are supposed to take things down. So It is the state of California should deal with this. This leads you back to like the Weinstein thing. You're going to still go see those movies because that actually ultimately doesn't matter.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, he was a crap person, is a crap person. You're still going to see it, but it's other people that are supposed to do the job of infracting. Like, you're supposed to do what you're supposed to do and not treat people the way that he treated people. It's not for the little people, you know, like us to make things different. We can do certain things, and we can make people. You can't make anyone do anything. They have to feel it. But like, this is where the state of California has to come in and be like, you're going to treat people like this. This is how we're going to treat you now.
I mean,
This isn't up to you, Ty. Like, this is that thing where it's like, you should feel free to buy this game because like, you aren't a part of that culture. Number
the
one,
middle
like,
managers and the upper managers not doing their job should not detract from the people that actually made this game.
right.
You know, the women were involved in making the game too.
That was literally to say, like, women were just as much a part of making this game, and you know, whether they were treated poorly, the women that made this game, or it was other women, you know, we don't know. But that's where the higher powers have to come in and be like, you know, you can't be like this, and this is what we're going to do. And if, you know, that's where it leaves the consumer out. It's sort of this like funny thing, like everyone's always like, we have to make a stand, we have to make a stand. It's good to make stands, and I don't disagree with this. I'm not like a big like protest person because I really feel like when you see this kind of thing, you just like the bigger powers have to do something. If you're not, then you look terrible. And like, this is why you elect officials.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's why we do it. It's like, you are supposed to be in charge of doing this stuff, not me.
Yeah,
I'm not running for this office. This is what you're supposed to do. That is your job. That's my like big takeaway is like, if you have people that are judges that are, you know, literally voted in, this is actually your job. This isn't my job anymore. I put you in that position to take care of these issues.
Yeah, and to springboard from what Greg just said, the hope would be that this stops. Obviously, like something drastic takes place, and that maybe even this is not going to happen, but CEO loses his job. You know, like
Right.
the C-level executives like are replaced with people that are a little bit more competent and capable of leading.
This is where I'm going to kind of fold the next thing in, which is amidst all of this, because this has been going on now at various studios, games media websites. IGN had a huge scandal where like the editors were basically being, you know, inappropriate with the female staff and things like that, and they were forced out and things of that nature. One of the big ones from last year was Ubisoft, who is, you know, most famous probably for Assassin's Creed, the Tom Clancy games, the Far Cry games, went through a similar situation, and publicly a lot of the top execs were laid off or terminated, and the company vowed to make changes. However, as we reach mid 2020, reports are that many of the individuals who assisted in covering up the improprieties are still in their position, and changes overall are minimal. A comment from one of the great names in the gaming space, the CEO of Ubisoft, Yves Guillemot. He said that, quote, management, myself included, have a responsibility to act as role models and be exemplary for our teams. I want to stress my personal commitment to continue to improve our workplace culture and create real, lasting, and positive changes at Ubisoft, end quote. That was in May. They're under fire again. And this is kind of the thing where Yves Guillemot has been the CEO at Ubisoft for a long time, but Bobby Kotick's been the CEO of Activision for 40 years. So at this point, you know, like you're saying, is some of the, you know, basically heads have to roll, right? But I don't understand how, when you've been in charge of a place, regardless of how big or small it is, or the fact that you raised it up from something very small in the mid NES era to what it is now, the biggest game publisher in the world, there's got to be a little bit, you are responsible for the culture there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And
Everyone knows that it's Bobby Kotick.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's Bobby Kotick's thing, and the dude makes hand over fist in money. He makes more. He, like, nobody knows outside of the gaming space who the hell Bobby Kotick is, and he's one of the wealthiest men on a yearly salary basis every year. His salary is like $120 million, just some asinine amount like that. but that's, I think, you know what I mean?
LeBron money.
It's seriously, it's LeBron money. And it starts with him, and it is trickled down. One of the things though that I would contest, and this is like small scale change, and like we're saying, is the little guy doesn't have any power to change things. But one of the cool things that has happened over the last week was that the World of Warcraft players, which is the MMORPG created by Blizzard in 2004 that remains immensely popular, actually organized a sit-in protest in the game servers asking for the removal of NPCs based on some of the alleged perpetrators who were involved in this. And I saw just a headline, I didn't click into the article, but that they have taken the steps to remove those references towards some of those people. So it is small change, but like, I think that is kind of the company acknowledging the player base to a certain extent.
So I don't know some of the details of this because there haven't really, and from the articles that I read, there haven't really been a lot of detail to like what are the allegations specifically, like who did somebody touch somebody's butt, did somebody like stroke somebody's shoulder when they walk past their desk every day.
The big boy allegation, and this is where I know that Activision has said that it's preposterous that the state is trying to link this to this case, because it just doesn't, like, it's just going to be a tough sell, basically. But there was a woman, I don't know names of either the woman or the perpetrator, at a trade show, which is like one of the big cons like E3 or, Gamescom, PAX, something like that, who was at this show with her supervisor, and the supervisor like provided her like, here's sex toys, and she committed suicide. And so that's the big boy in terms of like the harassment.
I guess that's the one event maybe that was public that we know about, but like maybe there was like pervasive, like constant...
and the cube crawl thing, but allegedly the cube crawl thing happened like 10 years ago. But this kind of goes back to the fact with this particular lawsuit that there's 13 complaints, 12 of them are discrimination, 1 is harassment. So the harassment is the thing that is getting the headlines, which it rightly should. But the reality of it is what they're really pursuing here, and this is what it's going to be, is the equal pay, the hiring
and opportunity, as much as anything,
opportunities and things like that.
Yeah. Oh, on that topic, like I don't know if you sent me this article or if I read this separately, but there was a specific example of that where a woman, like she to give an example, she said there were times where she would hear. She would get told that she's like too. The word was not assertive. That she didn't use the word assertive, but you could imply that it was the same meaning. She's like too bossy or too loud or too direct, with the way that she's carried herself and spoke. But then she would hear male colleagues literally getting screaming matches with their manager, and then shortly thereafter get promoted as a result of being, direct and asking specifically what they want out of their employer. They get basically fisticuffs, and then they get a raise for it. Where she's told, hey, be more womanly.
Yeah. And that's sort of, I guess the thing, and it's just going to be something to keep an eye on as we move forward, because I think that this is going to save, as big as Ubi is. I think that this is going to, whatever the fallout is, there's going to be.
I just saw a thing that said there was over 2,000 former employees, which is 20% of the workforce for Activision-Blizzard, signed a petition agreeing with this workforce dynamic.
Former employees or current employees?
Current and former combined.
Okay,
so
current and former. 2,000
people would end up being close to like a fourth of the workforce.
Yeah.
Sure
I know that they made statements and they're not happy and they're going to arrange a walkout and things of that nature, but it's definitely like, this is going to send shockwaves through the industry as a whole. Before we wrap up, there's two other kind of big things here that I just want to get your thoughts on. Mm-hmm. We discussed briefly on last week's episode that Netflix appears poised to enter the gaming market, although at first blush it may seem to be an ill-conceived challenge in the same vein as Google Stadia or Amazon Luna. Netflix may have some extra firepower in their camp to help back their punch. Data miners located images on the Netflix server depicting two very specific Sony properties that indicate the streaming giant could be getting into bed with PlayStation. The first of those was a image of the protagonist Jin Sakai of the popular Sucker Punch game Ghost of Tsushima. The second are images of the PlayStation 5 proprietary controller, the DualSense. There is, of course, precedence for the two parties to work together, as Sony and Netflix made an agreement that Netflix would get the first crack to all of their streaming exclusivity on their movies. So, at first blush, I think, you had sent me something as well on this, like, what do you think about this? So, Netflix getting into streaming games, is this going to be a thing? I mean, does them potentially being involved with Sony specifically as a potential partner move the needle for either of you as kind of more casual gamers?
For me, I could see how it would, because I when I was a kid and I played video games 7 hours a day, it was
Right.
like when you go to the grocery store, like, and you just like, you're just like on a beeline for the electronics section. You just want to go over there and see what's there, even though you're not probably going to be allowed to buy a game today. You just want to like play on the demo in that section.
Yeah.
Going to Kmart back in the day, man. Just play that demo. Oh, what a rush.
So it was just so awesome. And if you were able to convince your mom or dad into getting you a game, then it was like the best day ever, and you'd play it endlessly. But today, I'm an adult. So I have other stuff going on other than making a beeline for the electronics section. I'm sure Brenton still makes a beeline for the electronics section when he goes into Walmart. But I just don't have the time to dedicate to that. Now, if it were like Netflix, where it's kind of like just passive use of your mind, like you're just like, what do I want to watch? I don't know what's on TV. Let me just scroll this. And it's like you remember Video Adventure in Stoneboro?
Yeah, of course.
And they had that just like wall of rentals. You could just like pick whatever you want. Yep. You probably had never heard of most of those games, but one of them probably sounded pretty cool that day. And if you're just like scrolling through Netflix with your PlayStation controller, something is probably going to strike your fancy, whether it's like Ken Griffey baseball or like whatever. You're like just a nostalgic, want to play something old, or if you want to play like Earthworm Jim or something. That
right.
Might just
I meant like the same boat for me. It's like if I'm just bored, and it's like, we watched a movie that night. There's always that little filler where like Jeannie goes to bed and I'm still figuring out what to do. And it's like, am I going to watch the Grateful Dead concert from 1979 again? Or, it's like, that's what I end up doing. It's like something stupid like that. And it's like, or, John Mayer from a concert I've been to where it's like, yeah, I actually was there, or something stupid. Watch a cooking video. It's like, this is one of those things where like, maybe I just play a video game for an hour that I can just click the thing and like, here we go. And, it depends on how they utilize this, what they like decide to do going forward with it. Because if it is literally just the same as watching a movie where I click it and I go, then that's really cool. And if it, I always assume my Netflix membership goes up $1 every year. I don't even think about it. That's just like where I'm at this point, because it gives me content and that's where I'm at. So yeah, it is one of those things where like, I won't actively think about it, but I will passively think about it.
Right. Just real quick, last one here. The Intel execs expect chip shortage causing constraints for supplies on PS5's, Xbox Series X, and the RTX 30 graphic cards will continue well into 2022, which caused them to predict shortages of the consoles to continue until early 2023. I will say, and I've heard that anecdotally, you can walk into a Best Buy and get an Xbox Series S, which is the GIMP version of that, and that the PlayStation 5 fastest selling console hit 10 million units sold here in the last week. Does that put a damper on either of you as far as trying to get one of these next gen systems?
I was like all for getting a PlayStation 5, and then it became impossible, and the novelty wore off on me. I would have one sitting collecting dust if they were available. I would have bought one 6 months ago, but I couldn't. So now I learned I don't need one. So I mean, I'll probably get one eventually, but I don't have any desire or need for one when all of the PlayStation 5 games can be played on my PlayStation 4. I don't know why I need one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like super excited about different things, like Gran Turismo was one of those things, and now like my enthusiasm has just waned, and
Right.
you know,
Well,
that's
and
where
it
I'm
looks
at.
like Gran Turismo is going to be on PS4 anyway. So
Right. That's why I was like, so
Which
it's one of
is-
those things where like, okay, I'm gonna get the game that I was gonna get, and
right.
it's amazing they sold this many copies to me so fast. But I think it's that whole thing of like, well, it's so exclusive, so go ahead and get it. I don't know. It was weird.
Yeah, having had one now since December, I can say, the only game that I have had on it that I can't play, minus Astro's Playroom, which is the packing game, is Ratchet. And like the issue with me with Ratchet was like it took me
13
like
hours.
12 hours to platinum it, not just beat it, just to really
Bend it inside
I know.
out and flip it upside down.
Yeah. So hey, listen, we appreciate you coming back to talk with us about the Activision thing. Like I said, I think it's going to be an ongoing conversation. So as that kind of pops up, and maybe we'll take it chunks at a time. We're not going to do. It's not going to be like Cyberpunk where it's every week we have something new to say about it just because there's something to say about it. But when there's something else to talk about, and we'll chunk it up, and maybe we'll have you back on.
Yeah, that sounds good, man.
Okay.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right. Thanks for being here. Yeah. Thanks for having us on our podcast. Thanks.
All right. So we move on to topic number 2, and it's the Summer of George, but this is kind of a funny one that we go with here with Summer of George. We got my buddy, Alex McCarthy. I worked with him up in Alaska, and we're still friends for, multiple reasons, but Seinfeld is definitely one of those reasons. And he picked a absolute classic episode. This was a top 5 pick for me when I was narrowing down things. So I'm glad Alex picked it. It's The Pen. It's the 20th episode of Seinfeld, the 5th episode of the 3rd season, which first aired on October 2nd, 1991. Jerry and Elaine visit Jerry's parents in Florida and attend a dinner in honor of his father. They meet the neighbors, Jack and Doris, and after Jerry admires Jack's astronaut pen, he offers it to him, which Jerry gladly accepts. He didn't really want to give it to him, which leads to nonstop gossip. It all leads to an interesting dinner. Elaine, meanwhile, has an uncomfortable night on the pull-out bed. The lack of air conditioning doesn't help, hurting her back. Desperate to go back to New York, she is told by a chiropractor she has to stay for another 5 days. So we'll get into this next note, but I wanted to go with this first, Alex. This is a great episode. And what made you pick this?
It's one of my favorites. When I was young and first watching Seinfeld, like my earliest memories of watching Seinfeld before I got most of the jokes, this was like the episode that made me laugh the hardest. It's like one of my earliest Seinfeld memories of watching this episode, and just how everything collapses at the end, and Jerry and Elaine are both just like in terrible shape by the end with drugs and burst capillaries and screaming at the dinner, and Jerry's getting heckled. It's like everything just falls apart in such hilarious fashion. And then as I've gotten older, it's remained funny, but for different reasons. I think all of the interactions with mom and dad are like the interactions I currently have with my parents. They just like nail that so much about like offering to let Jerry have their car, and like, what are you gonna do, hitch, and offer to pay for a rental car, and Mrs. Seinfeld, saying like, oh, I don't even sleep, it's fine, you can take my bed away. Yeah, like all of that stuff. That's like stuff that my parents always say to guests in the house. So it's just remained funny to me over the years through however many dozen times I've seen the episode. And that's one of the reasons that when you texted me a while ago about like think of a Seinfeld episode and come on the podcast this summer, this was one of the top 2 or 3 that like immediately came to mind.
It's funny because one of our other guests, Scott, who came on, The Pen was one of his picks. And when I was he was thinking about it too, and then you said it, and I was like, boy, this is, and I had my like 5 written down. And I think what works about this episode, and you nailed it for me on that, where it's like when you were young, you remember laughing a lot because of I mean, I think the young stuff is, Jerry having his eyes, screwed up from scuba diving, and Elaine just screaming Stella. All the other like little parts are funny, but like as a kid, you just really react to things like that, visual and noises.
Yeah.
And, and so this is that's what really stuck out to me. And then as you get older, it's like you said, like the parents like, well, no, we'll pay $25 a day. No, we'll just pay for it. Morty, we'll pay for it. And like his mom is and she's staring out the window looking for them. She's like, why are they late? And she just won't stop staring out the window for that like first scene. It's so classic. And I think the 2 points that I wanted to get on, and then Brent, I'll ask you, is this is another episode where we don't see Jerry's apartment. And this has been a theme with Summer of George. And I think that's really funny to me is we, as much as, the apartment is a big part of this, it's the biggest part. It's the main, the main place where they're at, but people are going away from that. And I think the reason is it kind of, when you take Jerry out of his element, it makes the show different. And this is one of those episodes where like, he's not the main character at all. Like the pen and his parents are the main character. And I thought that was really funny that we did this again. And then the other thing is that Kramer and George are not in this episode.
Right.
And this became a talking point back then, and I'll get into it. This is the only episode where the character of George does not appear, and one of 2 episodes in which Kramer does not appear, the other being the Chinese restaurant, which we have talked about. Additionally, this episode is the first of Morty's rival Jack Klompus and Uncle Leo's wife and Jerry's aunt Stella. The Pen is the only episode to not feature the character of George, which, because of that, Jason Alexander threatened to quit the show after the table read, featured only 2 of the main cast actors, Jerry and Elaine. Alexander would later admit that this was caused by insecurity on his part, as he was worried that Julia Louis-Dreyfus' role would cause George's role to be diminished over time, which obviously didn't happen or anything like that because it is Larry David. But, that's why I told you, Alex, and you're like, oh man, what am I, I'm an asshole for picking this episode because it's Summer of George. But like, no, like it makes this more of a Summer of a George episode because like this changed things. And, who knows what happens going forward if he doesn't do anything. Maybe there's more episodes like that, or, I don't know. We don't know. And that's, for the best part about it. But Brenton, you and we've talked about this episode, I think, in the past, just to each other, making, the astronaut pen remarks. What stands out for you on this?
Alex hit the nail right on the head because we were texting last night as I was rewatching it about just how over accommodating his parents are. And that was the line that stuck out. We don't even sleep. You know what I mean? Just take the bed. We don't sleep. But it's funny. And I think this came up when we definitely talked about it in the Chinese restaurant. And I believe we talked about it also at length in the parking garage episode, which is that, these shows are insane, but there's also something relatable about them. And not so much the pen, but sleeping on a pull-out couch where there's that bar in the middle of it. At least like the old ones have that, like the futon bar, you know what I mean? Yeah. And that's how she screws her back up. And then the morning after the big fight with Jack Klompus at the dinner party, Morty sleeps on the bed and he's coming out all crippled and everything from the bed. So like, that's the thing. I'm thinking about it now, but there was a scene where I think it was when one of the other neighbors came in and she said something and Jerry looks at the ground and you could just tell he's barely holding it together.
When Evelyn comes in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And he's just like staring at the ground and you can tell. And the crazy part about it is you figure that's the best take they got. You know what I mean? Right. And he's barely able to hold it together. I mean, this is one of the few episodes that takes place down in Florida at his parents', and it's one of the standouts. He wants the pen, but he doesn't want the pen. I don't want it. No, take it. I don't want to take it. And, the whole thing. And it's funny. This was the first episode since we've had to start watching with the DVDs that I tried to watch with the notes about nothing on. I couldn't focus on the show though, because I was just reading it. And one of the things before I turned them back off, that they had said, and I think it was Larry David that had said that it was about just how these folks in those retirement communities just obsess about stupid shit. And this was a perfect example of that. So great pick. This was a funny. I mean, I laugh at every episode, and I've seen these, not as much as Greg, but I've seen all these episodes multiple times. But I don't think there's been one episode where I haven't like really there's been like just laugh out loud moments, even though I've seen these things 25 years ago, and I'm still just, it's just as funny. Sometimes, like you said, you don't understand the humor so much when you're younger, and you get jokes now that you didn't get when you were little if you haven't seen the episodes as much. But yeah, I mean, this was a hilarious episode.
Alex, do you have a astronaut pen by chance? Is that I found one on Amazon. I sent it to you. I don't know.
None of my parents. I've never gotten.
Ooh.
Breaking up a little bit. That's okay.
Yeah. Well, Alex, we really thank you for coming on. This was, like I said, one of my top 5 picks. So, I mean, this was something that ranked very high for me. So we really appreciate it. A great episode. Stella! All I said is I like the pen. So thanks again, Alex. It was good seeing you, man. Take care of yourself.
Thanks a
lot. Good luck in the draft.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we want to thank Ty. We want to thank Alex for coming on, talking, a little bit about, the game situation with Activision, and then obviously Summer George, the pen, great episode, awesome pool, very funny. So we want to thank both of them for joining us tonight. We move on to this. I'll tell you what, this one might as well have been called the Sad Batch. Bad Batch episode 13, Infested. To Sid's bar, the Batch finds Roland Duran, an up-and-comer in the crime world, has usurped Sid's position as kingpin on Ord Mantell. He sets up a deal with the crime syndicate, the Pikes, for a spice trade-off. Sid hatches a plan to steal the spice. Promising the deal, they sneak through an infested mine shaft and almost make it out before the Earlings that infest the cave attack, and they lose the spice. The Pikes take Omega hostage, and the Batch has to retrieve the spice in the infested caves, which they do, and Omega argues for Duran's life to be saved, and he is left with a broken horn, and we are given the lesson that not everyone is what they seem. What was your thoughts on this episode, Greg?
I just, for it to be like the penultimate episode,
yeah,
that was rough.
Yeah, it was a bummer.
Nothing. I kept waiting for something to happen, and I'm like, nothing's happening. This is just like they have 2 missions instead of 1, and the second mission is just the same mission over again.
Yeah.
It felt lazy. Yeah, I just didn't. I will honestly say I just didn't really like the episode. I don't feel like anything happened. I don't think we got anything from it. There wasn't even like a real funny moment to me. Like sometimes something gets saved in this with like a funny moment, but it was just like anytime something happened that was maybe geared towards being funny, it just felt forced. So yeah, I just didn't enjoy this episode. It wasn't actiony enough. It wasn't funny enough. And so there was like nothing, and there was no like, oh my gosh, we have 1 episode left moment either. So I think it hurt. Yeah. What did you think, Brian?
Waste of time episode.
Yeah.
This could have fallen anywhere in the run. I almost think that, okay, so this was 13. We had the 2-part episode with the rescue on Ryloth on 11 and 12. I almost feel like this episode should have slotted in as 11 and then bumped those back, because we did get that at the end of the last episode where it was like crosshairs coming for him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we have this sort of 2-episode thing where we had Hera and Chopper in the connective tissue to Rebels, and then you had this sort of like crosshairs coming. And then for this to be, like you said, the penultimate episode, and then have it just kind of fall really flat. Like there wasn't even any relevant character development. It was like, oh, Omega sees the good in people. We already knew that. Hunter's very cautious. We already knew that. Wrecker's kind of dumb, afraid of heights, and blows things up. We've known that from the jump. So yeah, I was really bummed out by this episode.
Yeah,
because I thought
too.
like minus like minus one or two episodes that we clearly identified as these are very fillery, it's been a pretty good run. And then for this to just kind of fall flat was definitely a disappointment. And whereas, like I'd said with some of the other episodes, like it gets you thinking about Star Wars in a different way. This episode didn't have that quality, even like in a little bit. And it was just like, I felt like, I'm like, how are they going to resolve? The last episode is going to have to be longer. It's just going to have to be.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I don't understand how they're going to resolve, a lot of the loose threads that they've set up with a 25-minute long episode.
Right. It has to be longer unless they're just saying like, hey, we'll tie up one loose end, and then second season. I don't know. It's just weird to me. I literally said this while I was watching. It was like the last two episodes should have been this episode. Even if it was just 13, I think it would have been better to make like that 2-part one episode and make it longer, whatever. And then have this before it, because this episode just, I don't know. Like I said, I thought it was lazy. And I know that happens with, shows. I understand that there's a lazy show pretty much of anything, even if it's good. There's always a lazy episode, but this one just was like, there's nothing redeeming about it. And I hope the last episode gives us something. It doesn't give me a lot of hope. I'll be honest. So like now I'm kind of like, what are we going to get with this last episode?
Well, there's no season 2 confirmed at this point.
Right.
So in my mind, here are the three, in order of importance, the three main kind of loose ends that need to be tied up. And the reality of it is there's probably other ones that you could point to. The first is that we saw what we pretty both agreed upon with the Trace and Rafa episode, that they were telling someone who you can see like their leg, like, hey, there's these guys that are out there and they're kind of cool.
Yeah.
And we were both pretty sure that was Ahsoka and that she was eventually going to show up.
Yes.
Obviously, the conflict with Crosshair is coming to a head. I mean, that's definitely going to be resolved in the next episode. But then the third one is like, how important is Omega to the rest of the story overall? They make her seem like she's pretty damn important. And so I don't understand how they're going to resolve those three things. If they choose not to resolve the Ahsoka thing, then that's kind of just like a dumb tease that they did.
Right.
But I don't understand how in a 22 to 25 minute episode, as all the episodes minus the first one have been, how that's going to resolve both the conflict with Crosshair. Is he going to be redeemed? Are they going to be able to get his chip out of him to make him kind of fall back in line with that crew? Or is he going to continue to be the loyal soldier? And then also figure out like, hey, this is why Omega is so important to like the story as a whole. So I'm a little concerned. I'm hoping that the last episode is going to be kind of more akin to the length of the first one so that they can resolve all of these loose threads, because like I said, there is no second season confirmed. So unless we get that, you know what I mean? Like in the next couple of days, I know they've done that a little bit. Like with Loki, they confirmed season 2 at the end of season 1. But yeah, I'm a little cautious here, like you said, moving into the finale here for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, well, we'll see what happens. Like I said, I'm not stoked right now, but we'll move on. So we'll go from the little screen to the big screen, and movie news roundup. The latest Dune, and I guess it's the official trailer, was up. And
yeah, I think everything to this point's been a teaser.
Yeah, so I think this is the real deal. It was like 3.5 minutes too, so it was a big deal trailer. It looks freaking. It looks awesome. I don't know what else to say. I mean, it's Blade Runner and it's Dune and it's Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya. It looks really cool. It's gonna be very spacey. I never read Dune. I've never read Dune. I watched the first movie, so I had no idea what the hell was going on. I feel like a lot of people feel that way, but I'm excited to watch this. It's going to look cool. At the very worst, it's going to look cool.
I know that this should be in my wheelhouse,
I was going to say this should be in your wheelhouse.
but I'm not excited about it.
Okay.
Like even a little. Like I'm excited about Oscar Isaac because Oscar Isaac's sweet. But
James Brolin.
like Timothy Chalamet and Zendaya don't move the needle for me at all.
Sure, I
And
understand that.
I think like I have this sort of like not begrudging, but just like my heels are so dug in that Star Wars is the ultimate science fiction piece for me, and nothing's ever going to be as great as that. And I know that there's a lot of people who are like, you got to read Dune, it's better than Star Wars. And I'm just like, I don't want that. I just don't even want that.
I like the director, Dennis Villanueva. Like, I mean, he did Blade Runner,
2049.
2049, which I love.
Is he related to Charlie?
It's spelled differently.
Okay.
I might even pronounce it wrong. There's a chance I did. He doesn't have alopecia, that I know of. Charlie Villanueva, tough guy to look at. But we'll move on. Warner Brothers will make 10 movies exclusively for HBO Max next year. That's a lot of movies in 1 year. The only film confirmed at this time is Batgirl, which recently cast Leslie Grace as the title character.
Yeah, that is a lot of movies. I was trying to think. I was like, well, they've probably had that many movies this year on HBO Max, but that's also because everything's gotten delayed because of the pandemic.
Right.
So they've had things stocked up that they have to get out. Yeah, that is a lot. That's a lot of movies. Yeah.
I mean, there's probably I would say probably 4 of them were already made. You would think at least. And then they're just waiting to release it. I mean, that's just crazy.
Well, probably some of them are going to be like weird horror movies.
Yeah,
they just shit those out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can just put those out. I mean, and
like,
they're like okay enough.
6,
yeah,
Insidious
exactly.
10.
We didn't say they were all freaking The Dark Knight here. Right. Michaela Cole, best known for HBO's I May Destroy You, joins the cast of Black Panther 2.
I'm not familiar with her. Are you familiar with?
No, I haven't watched I May Destroy You. I feel like the fear that I have of Black Panther 2 is overcompensating for losing.
Maybe.
And just adding people to it. Because I feel like, the side characters in the first movie were enough to maybe push a second movie if it's done right.
Yeah.
And if you keep adding people, it maybe takes away from. And I don't know. I mean, when it happens, I'll see it in theaters, and I'll see it the first day it comes out. But just I hope that's not the case. I hope I'm wrong. That
I know for whatever reason I neglected to put in there that Winston Duke is confirmed to return as M'Baku.
Oh yeah.
So
he's great. So
yeah, we are vegetarians.
And moving on from our 1A 1B loves of movies, Mark Hamill did secret voice cameos for every Disney Star Wars film he was not directly cast in.
Let me correct you. It may be 1A 1B for you, but it's 1 and 2 for me.
Okay.
The OG trilogy will always be above
the thing for me is I count everything, and so. It was Star Wars was 1A or 1, and then everything else happened. So it dropped it to where it can, Marvel still has to be in when I take everying in.
Marvel's marvelous, but
Marvel is marvelous. You're not wrong.
The Force is forever.
The Force is forever. The Last Duel starring Ben Affleck, Jodie Comer, Matt Damon, and Adam Driver gets a trailer.
I didn't watch this trailer. I
did. The movie looks kind of cool. I mean, it is, I will say this, the movie it'll be a good movie. There's no doubt watching the trailer, it'll be a good movie. This will also be a good movie. I'm excited about this one. Ant-Man and the Wasp has begun filming. It is slated to release in February 2023.
Yeah. Next official confirmed time that we're going to see Jonathan Majors as, He Who Remains, Kang the Conqueror, whatever his character is. The more I thought about him, and I really liked him in the episode, but I really like that character moving forward.
Yes.
Because I think
Yeah.
it's such a great, and I mentioned this when we talked about it, but I think it's such a great change of pace.
Yep.
Compared to Thanos. Because if he's going to be the big overarching bad guy, I think it's but the other thing with that is, and I've seen this, is that the He Who Remains character from the season finale of Loki is like the least evil version of that character.
Right.
He's
right.
like the most benevolent variant of Kang. So it'll be interesting to see when he shows up as other variants, as he's slated to do in Quantumania, if he's going to take on that sort of same whimsical characteristic that he did in Loki, or if it's going to be different.
I mean, my guess is that's next slated role. We'll see little appearances by him before that. I really feel like we will.
Yeah, because it's what, 2023 we said?
Yeah.
Wouldn't be surprised if we got him in Doctor Strange, especially.
Yeah, Doctor Strange. Yeah. I feel like that makes sense. Doctor Strange would make the most sense. New Ghostbuster trailer came out.
Did you check that out?
Yeah. I'm not really that excited about it, to be honest.
See, I'm the opposite.
That's so funny. I mean,
Yeah.
the first two Ghostbusters are like two of my
Classic.
favorite movies ever.
Oh
made.
yeah, 100%. Yeah. And
This
I'm
one-
not for like, I'm typically against taking those old things and making them new again. But I think that the one of the things that this has going for it is that if you were going to take somebody, if you're going to take an actor from today and inject it into that series, you couldn't pick somebody better than Paul Rudd.
I 100% agree. I just like, I don't know. There's something about it for me where like, I don't want it to be different. And that's, Paul Rudd fits perfectly. And I will see this movie. That's not, I will see Ghostbuster movies, but it's just one of those things where like, I hope it's good. I just am like, maybe it's good. I'm putting my expectations low and maybe it'll just be like, this movie's awesome. And
It's going to be better than and it's not, and I'm not saying that it wasn't good because it was all women. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it wasn't good because it wasn't good.
Yeah.
But it's going to be much better than that. But I will say in the trailer at the end, when Aykroyd picked up the phone, I got chills. Because that's what I like. That's what you want. You want him and Bill Murray. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to a lesser extent, Ray Winston.
Yeah.
But, and obviously we can't get Ramis, but, that's kind of what the plot centers around is a little bit.
Right.
Of Harold Ramis. But no, I'm actually, because I was kind of at the same mind as you about this. Is just like, I love the first two, especially the original, so much that I don't want to see them sully it any further. But I actually think that, especially with Aykroyd and Murray being on board, that there's a good chance that this is going to wind up being at least decent.
I hope that I am wrong 100%. Like I've never wanted to be more wrong than with this movie.
Right. Yeah. Well, I could probably think of other examples.
I should say in a very low extent of things, I'm being wrong.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We move on to a music news roundup. Here at number 5, John Mayer's Sob Rock skyrocketed up the charts this week and reached number 2 on the Billboard Top 200, bested only by Pop Smoke's posthumously released Faith. Did I say that right?
Posthumously. It's okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm illiterate. The album also reached number 1 in total unit sales, which counts digital downloads, CDs, vinyls, and cassettes.
He released this on
thing.
cassette, so that's why I had to put it on there. He like literally released it on cassette because of the 80s theme.
That's insane. Mayer thanked his fans on Instagram and commented, quote, "This is a new beginning." Do you want to comment on that before I move?
Just real quick, it made me. It sounds weird, because John Mayer is like literally my guy. Like this is the guy I'm a stand with. Even when things got weird, I was just like, things got weird. I'm sorry. This made me like weirdly happy. I just like, I don't even know how to like necessarily say it. It's probably like for you if, the Chili Peppers came on an album and it's like, all right, comes out and and it goes, it's number 2. Like it literally is number 2 on this is crazy to me. And then number 1 on like units sold. And, he did a really big marketing campaign. He was super proud of this album. It like made me feel like weirdly proud, even though I obviously, I bought a vinyl and I, have Apple Music, so I have it, but it was just like one of those things where like, it just made me happy and like, good for him, and if this is a new beginning, that's cool. I mean, I know Dallas and I kind of disagreed where he just wants the blue stuff, but I always just trust I trust the process. And I trust the John Mayer process, not the Philadelphia, 76ers process.
Yeah, I mean, like I can't speak to the John Mayer thing. I just, like, I guess it's just, I think the music is more subjective than any other form of like media entertainment art. Because a lot of it is in the eye of the beholder. Sure. Whereas, because like what you're saying, I get what, you like maybe the experimental stuff and he's trying something new, things of that nature. I have the Chili Peppers are my favorite band. I have a certain expectation that comes with that. And I don't like the last album. Mm-hmm. I think it's objectively, well, like, I know I just said it's subjective, right? But I think that it is, I don't think it's good. Like, I think, sure. I think it's a bad album. You know what I mean? And there's a lot that goes into that, and it's a Chili Pepper thing. And it's a whole nother conversation about like, for Shawnee versus Klinghoffer and all of that. But that is kind of, I guess it's all based on, your taste. Not that I'm sticking up for Dallas or you know what I mean? Because
no, I understand.
There's probably plenty of people who the blood, sugar, sex, magic people who are just like Californication sucks. You know what I mean?
I'm guessing that's 100% it. It's like, and the thing is, like, Dallas and I both agree that Continuum is his best album. I mean, everyone agrees. It's just, I think the biggest thing is, and I like, I'll end on this point. So is you're never like, let's say that Blood Sugar Sex Magic is your favorite Chili Peppers album. You just say that's your favorite album and nothing's going to match it. And if you think Californication sucks, it's like, the thing with John Mayer is this one guy doing his thing. And it's like, everyone universally thinks Continuum is his best album. He has that pressure in him. Like, oh, do I try to do this over again or do I not? Yeah. And he chose not to try, because if you try to do something like that, and it fails, then you look terrible. Like, that's just one of those things. If you try to make a kind of like, it's still pop, but it's blues, but it's, also rock. It's all those things. And he decided, what I'm going to try to do now is, and this is rock music. What he's doing on this is technically rock music. It's just 80s rock, which is not something he's done before. And there's, like we said in the thing in the podcast last week, is he will still give you the guitar solos at the concert. But if you're just listening on there, this is a different frame of music, and you're going to get something different. But at the end of the day, this is so weird to me, because like his last 3 albums did, not great. And for people to come out and do this and like bring this up to the charts, because things are so different now. It's like, right. BTS is number 1 on everything, and John Mayer just like serve what they're doing and what Olivia Rodrigo, and I like both those artists, but it's just sort of funny to me that, and I am 100% fine. It'll be this week and that's it. And I'll be okay with that. It won't be next week.
Just to counter that, though, is that sometimes artists take risks or make changes or experiment with things and they don't work.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this doesn't work. And I'll be honest with you. I know like maybe 3 John Mayer songs. You know what I mean? He's not my guy like he is yours. You know what I mean? But there are those artists that I obsess over as well. And it's like, I think that Weezer did something really different this year where they tried to make like a hard rock album, and I thought it worked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there were times in the past where they tried to do like different things or experiment in different ways, and it doesn't work. So, but I also think, like I said, music is more up to the individual. to kind of say like, well, this is my taste, because there's so many more genres of music, right? Because I got one time, it was after we did our top 10 albums episode. And I had said that my favorite album was Blood Sugar Sex Magic. And somebody said to me, well, then your favorite songs ever are Give It Away and Under the Bridge, because the rest of that album sucks. Well, it's like, well, a genre of music that I like is funk music. It's funk music. And a lot of people don't necessarily like that genre. It's a subgenre like, reggae or something. I listen to P-Funk and George Clinton and shit. And that's where like, if you don't understand funk and you don't like funk music, then you're not going to like that album, because that's what that album is. You know what I mean? It's not Californication. Californication is more of a classic alternative rock album.
Right. Yeah.
And I would make the argument that Californication is better than Blood Sugar Sex Magic. It's just that I like funk music. So that's why I like that album. You know what I mean?
Right. And on just the overall like scape of things, this isn't playing a sport or going to your job.
Right.
A normal job. Imagine being a musician. You're like, I can't just keep putting out the same thing, because then it just doesn't work anymore.
Right.
Every single musician in the history of time does an experimental album that's worth anything.
Right.
And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But you have to do something, because you're going to get bored as hell. It would be awesome to go into work and be like, I'm just going to freewheel it today. I'm going to do everything different. And then you're going to get fired.
Baby.
Yeah. You're going to get fired. As a musician, you don't get fired. Your album's sales don't work. And they're like, oh, okay, well, we kind of need you to do what you did before.
Right.
That's the thing. It's such a different, being a musician is maybe the weirdest job. It actually might be the weirdest if you're like actually popular, because you can't just literally do the same thing over and over again, because people will be like, this doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah. Longtime producer Giles Martin said the current spatial audio version of the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper Lonely Hearts Club Band will be remastered to meet the quality he thinks the classic album deserves. In a Rolling Stone interview, Martin said he was pleased with other albums using the Dolby Atmos surround sound experience and wants Sgt. Pepper's to live up to the standards he has for it.
I just think this is cool. And the reason why I actually brought this up, because I had like something else, but I thought this was not as like controversial and not as weird, but just like that album's been around forever. And like, they're still reworking it where people are just like, this isn't what I heard in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
And this album, like, no matter what they've done with it, they're like, and it's considered by many people the greatest album ever made. Whether, and yet people are like, I think it can sound better. And he's like, with the Atmos thing, and I don't know how much, about this, but it's like, if you actually have like the home and entertainment system, the idea of the Atmos is that if you connect it, it's supposed to completely surround you without you knowing where the sound's coming from. Mm-hmm. So the idea is to make you actually feel like you're almost like in a concert, even though you're at home, where like the sound just kind of waves over you. And there's people that like disagree with this kind of thing, because they're like, well, certain things should only be in mono and certain things should only be in stereo or whatever. Right. And, the idea that he wants to do this, and he's like, well, the Beatles were the first, band to do this. And this was 2016 with like a digital format. And he's like, it's cool that a band like the Beatles is still doing something first, even though they haven't been around. And,
right. Yeah.
And so this is the kind of funny thing for me, where it's like, there's still someone out there that is so particular about the way that something was heard originally, and they can't duplicate it. And that's like the weird thing about music that I think is actually cool. It's like, there's a way that someone has heard something and nobody else has heard it that way and still thinks something's great, but it's like, it can still be greater. And I think that's like, to me, the coolest thing, whether you think it's this, and I just brought this up because I thought the overall topic of this was cool. It was just like, It's funny to think that someone has heard something and like, they heard it such a different way than we have. And yet he thinks it can be better when it may be the best thing ever done. Yeah. And I think that's a cool thing. And I also think the idea of making a digital version of something, people criticize digital, but like the more and more that I listen to things, new albums come out in Atmos, and I wear, AirPods when I'm like running or whatever, it does sound different. It is weird how different things sound now compared to like 5 years ago, even.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I saw this on Twitter. I saw somebody pose this question on Twitter, and so I'm going to pose it to you because it's straight down the middle, belt high fastball.
Okay.
Four seamer
All right.
for you to be able to have a conversation. Better catalog of music, the Beatles or Taylor Swift?
Well, the Beatles have a better catalog of music.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the Beatles have a better catalog of music, but I can see why someone 10 years younger than me wouldn't think that. I honestly think that
I'm trying to think if even 10 years is old enough.
I think if
that's even enough space. To be fair, this is the fun part about this. The person who posed the question, 2 years older than us.
That's funny. I mean,
Yeah.
and Taylor Swift and the Beatles are very high in my overall rankings of musicians of all time. She is a terrific songwriter. I mean, there's nothing wrong with putting those. I will say there's nothing wrong asking that question. I don't think there's anything wrong asking that question.
I do.
It's the Beatles.
Yeah, that's why, because it's the Beatles.
It's the Beatles. It's just, to me, it's one of those things where, like, I think there's people out there that can defend Taylor Swift. I will 100% say they are wrong. I love Taylor Swift. They're wrong if they take that side, but I respect them doing it. I respect them defending her.
Here's the litmus test, is that your music needs to stand the test of time to be considered in the same conversation as the Beatles. Their debut album came out almost 60 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's still as relevant today as it was then. There's really, like, legitimately, there's only a handful. I would say there's only a handful of bands, solo, whatever, that stand the test of time the same way that the Beatles have. I love bands and I wouldn't include them on that. I would include the Chili Peppers on that list. They've been doing it for 40 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To me, the list is like maybe like Zeppelin, the Eagles, Michael Jackson, and that's it.
I was going to say, are we just counting bands? And then you said Michael Jackson. So I mean, I think there's certain people that have like a song or something that stands the test of time.
But that's the thing is that
but when it's
song,
your catalog,
the Village People have a song.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, but when it's a catalog that stands the test of time, that's, and this is another reason why I put this in here. It's just like, get that discussion rolling about, like, it's weird to me that, like, this, if you listen to the Beatles now as I can't imagine, it'd be cool. It'd be very cool. I wish I could, that would be a fun thing. I wish I could listen to the Beatles for the first time. It's like their first time they hear it. And you just play whatever album, it doesn't even matter. Because I think, you can just hear someone hear them for the first time. It's got to be like a super, I love that, dude. That's one of my favorite things in this, is to experience something for the first time with someone else.
Do you remember, I don't know how old we would have been, but do you remember when that documentary, the Beatles Anthology, came out when we couldn't have been older than 13, probably younger than that.
I would say we were very young. Yeah.
That was like that was as important as The Last Dance was last year when there were no sports because of the pandemic.
Right. Oh, it was like if Twitter existed, that would have been Twitter.
Oh, it would have been.
That would have been Twitter.
It'd have been. Yeah, I remember that. I had because they re-released a lot of that stuff in double CDs.
Yep.
And I feel like I had like 2 of the 3 volumes.
It was crazy. I mean,
yeah, that was a big deal.
It was.
Sturgill Simpson, who released 2 bluegrass albums in 2020, has recorded a new album set to release August 23rd. The album, The Ballad of Dude and Juanita, will harken back to traditional country and mountain music and feature Willie Nelson on the track. How is he still alive?
That's a good question.
That dude's pot-addled brain.
He just smoking pot, man. That's
the devil's lettuce
keeps
is
you alive.
keeping him going.
I'm just, I bought this. This is personally just, I'm excited. It's weird that, like, I have a year, and not a calendar year, but just a year where, like, Taylor Swift releases music, John Mayer releases music, and Sturgill Simpson releases, and they're all like multiple albums from 2 of those artists, and then John Mayer releases an album. And if you go a year and a half, you get Lady Gaga in the mix, and it's been like a weird thing, but it's like the pandemic, for all like the negatives, it just, people were bored and like, let me make music. And I tried to actually go to like, I thought about going to one of his shows in Nashville, and it sold out immediately. And I was just like, I'm not going to post like the money to do this. I'm already seeing enough shows, but no, I'm just excited. Like the thing that's cool, whether you like Sturgill Simpson or you don't. And I mean, he tries to do everything. Like, he really hits all the things. He's literally done everything. He's been nominated in 3 different categories in music, and I think all valid, country, folk, and rock. Have you listened to the rock album by him, Brenton?
No.
Okay. I mean, I just like, it'd be interesting for you to listen to it. I'm not recommending, like, if you want to listen to it, you can, if you don't, whatever, but it is actually a rock album. It is 100% rock and roll.
What's it called?
Like,
What's the album called?
Oh my God. My brain always stops on the actual album of it, because it's like, let me see. It's, I can see the cover of it's the car on fire. I always want to go back to
Just like this show is a car on fire sometimes.
Well, it happens. It happens. Sound and Fury. Well, that's what I was going to say.
Sound and Fury.
And Fury. Yeah. It literally is a rock album. I mean, it is as much as, and he has like a whole like movie with it and stuff like that. That's really cool. But yeah, he does everything, and he's going back to like old school country and like, what good old country is. So I just think that's cool. I mean, good for him. He's putting out new album. This might be his last. He said he was going to do so many albums. And
how old is
we'll
he?
see what happens. He's 43.
I've never even heard of the guy until we started talking about him last year.
That's funny. I mean, What's really funny is I didn't hear about him until about 3 years ago, and I was listening to a podcast, and they just were, 2 guys I really liked, Ryan Russillo and Chris Long, were just talking about music, and they brought him up, and I was like, well, I like these guys. We kind of have the same views on life, and I listened to one of his first album. I'm like, okay, I can dig this and listen to everything, and now I'm like Sturgill Simpson guy.
Right. Remember, kids, you can learn things that you like on podcasts.
You can, yeah. So you should listen to a top 10% podcast and
top
tell all your friends. And
popularity.
Yeah.
You should tell your friends and lovers,
mothers, and lovers.
And
tell
lovers.
your lovers too. Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Tell your lovers.
We'll move on. Comic-Con at Home roundup. Dexter New Blood will premiere November 7th on Showtime. I thought he died. Spoiler. Sorry.
Never seen it.
Okay, I haven't either. I'm not.
Yeah.
Good.
I've been told that I would like it, but I've never gotten.
I've also been told I would like it, but then I know what happens, so now I'm like, The Walking
now
Dead.
I do too. So thanks.
I just want to spoil shit. It's been, hey, you know what? It's been around forever, and I don't care.
It's on Netflix, so
yeah. Sopranos ends with a black screen. We don't know what happens, but we kind of do.
Don't stop believing.
Yeah, don't stop believing. The Walking Dead, somehow that's still on. 9 years past it needed to be on. Final trailer was shown with 2 new cast members. Just end, please.
Thank Christ that this is ending.
The Simpsons season 33.
Speaking of things that have been around forever,
it's been too long. I always argue, like, I have the 9 seasons thing, because if Seinfeld went 9 seasons,
it's
nothing
different.
else should.
Certain things are different, though.
But no, and I know. But I watched Simpsons religiously. I mean, and I watched the first 10 seasons, and they were all. And then I remember like season 11 had some misses, and then I would just randomly come in on Simpsons episodes, and sometimes they're funny, and sometimes they're not. It's just, I don't know. It's just kind of like I love Simpsons as like an overall, like I'll still rank it very high on where I have things because of what it did initially. But now it's just, I don't know. I guess people still watch it, and
there's I don't remember who was saying this, but they want to push for all the classic NES and SNES Simpsons games to be remade.
I'm down
or
with
at
that.
least like, fresh coat of paint brought to the modern sort of deal. But that it remains to be seen whether or not that would happen. So
it probably will. Just because, new Dragon Ball. Sorry, I'm gonna reread that. New Dragon Ball Super, the movie, next year.
Yeah, it's called Dragon Ball Super Superhero.
All right. I mean, I'm Ah,
Dragon Ball's been a thing since before we were born. Most people don't
Right.
know that.
yeah, it's been around forever. And
It
then a
has
movie.
been around forever, and it has tons of movies,
Yeah, tons of movies, and
tons
it's good.
of stuff.
Yeah, it's fun.
There's days I'll be honest with you. There's days where I just want to like lay in bed in my pajamas and just watch the Cell Saga.
I don't have pajamas, but uh,
I have
but there are days
pajamas.
where I don't want to I never want to like lay in bed and do anything that involves, because I like there's this weird thing, but I've contemplated just like doing a day where I don't do anything.
Yeah.
I wonder what that's like. That's gotta be nice.
I don't
Someday.
know.
Someday.
Yeah,
I'll do
man.
that.
I just like, man, like today
Don't
seems like
stop.
a great day to just, not get dressed and watch Goku scream.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe for me, it would just be like, let me just watch The Winter Soldier and some James Bond movies.
Mm.
Army of Thieves, the prequel to Army of the Dead, revealed. All right.
Ugh. It's about the German locksmith.
Yeah.
Like, that's who it's about.
What about
Zach's an
new
executive
stuff?
producer.
What
he's
about just
not.
doing like
Nobody wants this.
nobody asked for it? It's like literally the meme. Nobody.
They
And
didn't
then,
even give
hey,
it
we're-
time for them to ask for it. They announced
No.
it like day and date when the first one came out.
Yeah, they're just like, here you go.
That movie did
Um,
really well on Netflix.
Yeah,
and
it did.
We both didn't really care for it. Thought it had a lot of faults. You can see our
Yeah.
review of Army of the Dead. Army of
Yeah.
Darkness. Army of the Dead.
Army of Darkness.
I don't even know what the fuck the name is.
Army of
But you can
Darkness.
see our review for it on the YouTube.
Yeah, either way, you just go back, you'll find it, you'll figure it out.
Bet
You
on
guys
day.
are smart.
Well,
Oscar Isaac dropped in from the set of Moon Knight to announce a new comic series for the character. Well, that makes sense.
It does
You
make
wanna-
sense.
You got to do
This was
that.
like the only
Plus, this
Marvel-
character seems cool as shit. So,
Yeah.
like we've talked about, I'm
Yeah.
down.
I'm like, I don't have any history with this character, but I'm kind of interested in like maybe picking up some books.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah.
New trailer for Doctor Who season 13. I've never
People
been a
love it.
Doctor. Yeah,
Me
people love
neither.
it. I try watching it every once in a
Same.
while, and then I just like don't get
I
it.
don't get it.
And that's on me. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, it's on us
It's on
because
us.
I don't get it either.
Yeah. Okay.
It's
That
on-
makes me feel better because I thought maybe when I saw this was in the notes today, I was like, oh, Burton might be a Doctor Who guy.
I'm not, but I know they're out there.
Yeah. People love
What do they call it? What are they like? Whovians or something?
Whovilles.
No, that's
A different thing. That's a
Dr.
different thing.
Seuss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also a doctor.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I'd like to see where
Uh,
they got their PhDs from or MDs.
Yeah. It's
Matter.
maybe honorary doctorate.
Yeah.
Paramount Plus teaser trailer for Star Trek Prodigy.
Star Trek will never be as good as Star Wars.
That's a
Sorry,
fact.
if you're a Trek,
As much as I like Star Trek, it just can't be as good as Star Wars.
don't
That's-
at me.
Bob's Burgers, the movie was discussed. I'm down for this. I mean, I love Bob's Burgers and it has yet to disappoint me. So do the movie now. Do the movie now while you're still relevant and not,
Right.
and it'll be funny and it'll be
Don't
just do what you do.
don't wait 10 years to finish your novel.
Yeah. Do it now. And I just want to add to just while we're in this, Bob Odenkirk suffered some sort
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah.
Some sort of heart
Collapse on-
problem, but he's in stable condition. I just
Yeah.
want to point that out there. You and I, big Odenkirk guys.
Yeah.
So we
We
just wish him the best. I don't, and hopefully by the time this comes out, it won't be a thing. He'll be the
Right.
best. He's out. He's good to go.
I would
and,
also, I meant to tack this on to the bottom of movie news. Two movies that you and I were both in the lead ups to very lukewarm on. The new Suicide Squad movie and then also The Green Knight are getting very, very good reviews.
Yeah.
The Green Knight is only in theaters. Suicide Squad is an HBO Max movie, which means Brenton and Greg at the Movies at Home review.
Yeah. Woo.
I don't know why we talked about this just today on our own, how reviews are coming like a full week ahead of it, but whatever. Quick hitters. Adam Driver is a centaur. in a new Burberry cologne commercial. I haven't seen this.
Oh my
I
God,
saw
dude.
I saw a
You
headline.
gotta
Is it
watch it. He's running, he's naked and he's running into the ocean. It's shadowy naked. So you don't see anything, but he's shadowy naked. He runs into the ocean. And then there's a horse in there and he's running with the horse. He's swimming with the horse. And then at the end, he's a centaur and it's incredible.
So apparently there was a new Shang-Chi trailer today also. I'm going to watch this
Whoa.
right now.
I did not know that.
Okay.
Another one?
Yeah. At this point, I'm kind of on media blackout for Shang-Chi. I'm watching this Burberry movie. He's running up the beach. He's very thin.
He's very much in shape.
Okay. He's swimming. The horse is swimming.
Yeah.
This is an impromptu clip of the week.
Yeah. Horses are good swimmers.
Okay. Now he's riding the horse in the water. No, he's not. He's swimming next to it.
Yep.
Okay. I like the music.
Yeah, the music's great. Burberry commercials are always good.
Oh.
And we're probably at the point now.
He's still in the water.
Yeah.
Writhing around. Oh, he's a centaur.
He's a
You
centaur.
don't really see him as a centaur, though.
But you know it's him.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously
it's weird.
It's very obviously implied that is that.
Great.
That was weird. I'm probably not going to sleep tonight.
Fair.
So yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you go. And Simone Biles. It's like a quick word on her. Just she left the competition for mental health reasons. As someone who gone through a lot the past couple of years with mental health, with working so much, I get it. She didn't feel confident, and I read a thing today where her vault, people are surprised that she was even able to land on her feet. And if she's got whatever's going on there, and I don't want to use the Y word, because you just don't do that, Ted Lasso style. If you've watched the first episode of Ted Lasso season 2,
yet.
Oh,
No,
okay.
I haven't gone.
You don't use the Y word, the little Chuck Knobloch thing. If she's got something like that going on and she's jumping and flying around, I don't want to see Simone Biles hurt herself.
What's the Y word?
I can't. If you can't do something as a professional athlete, and the yips.
The yips.
She's got the yips.
Oh, okay.
I don't want her hurting herself. She's the greatest gymnast ever, female gymnast ever.
Here's where I'm at with that. Okay. Now, I'm of two minds of this. Okay. She pulled herself out of the team thing. Okay.
Yeah.
And then she did say she's not going to compete in the individual all around.
Mm-hmm.
I do not believe she should be eligible to compete for any of the individual events.
Yeah, I think she has 3 other ones left.
Yeah, I think if you're going to take yourself out, take yourself out the whole way.
I think she is going to end up doing that.
Here's where I'm at. Like I said, I'm of two minds with this, is that if you are experiencing severe mental health anxiety, then you shouldn't be there in the first place. Is number one. Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. It's important. It is important to take care of yourself. Obviously, she's under an immense amount of pressure. If she's feeling this way, she shouldn't have been there in the first place. I look at this and I feel like, are you not performing the way that you thought you would, or the way that you expect that you should? And now you're just bailing? Because if that's the case, sometimes as an athlete, you just don't perform the way that you believe you should.
Yeah.
There's plenty of LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Michael Phelps, if you want to go the Olympic route. If you're going to be the best ever, then don't have a bad day at the office and just give up. You're not the best ever if that's the case, because sometimes you just have to take the L. You're not performing the way you should be. Now, if it's a mental health thing where she's putting her own health and safety on the line, then that's a different story. but it was just weird to me because I watched the qualifying rounds and she didn't perform well. And you could tell she was upset with herself. So that's where I'm at, where it's kind of like, if you're just upset with yourself because you didn't perform the way that you thought you were going to perform or expect yourself to perform, then you just got to take the L and chalk that up to, I didn't get the job done today.
Yeah.
Versus something else. But that's my thing. It's like, if you're feeling like you can't handle the pressure, then don't put yourself in the pressure cooker. Is kind of where I'm at with that.
I honestly think at this point it is a mental health, and I just based on from what we've seen her, I think it's the yips. I really do. I think she put so much pressure on herself based on the way the media has, and I mean that's your job. When that's your job,
yeah, exactly.
The media is going to put that pressure on you, and then it happens, and you can't throw a ball 20 feet to first base, and you can't, like you have a hiccup in your swing or whatever. It's like, and there's that thing where it's like she knows the world is watching, and if she has the yips and she can't perform, that embarrassment is a worldwide embarrassment that I think is tough. She is only 24 too at the at the end of this, and it's a weird situation, and we're not
inside her head, right?
Yeah,
but I have a hard time being a sports observer and saying this person is the best ever at the thing that they do when it's your time to shine, you can't, for whatever reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think the one thing is like she was considered the best ever before this even happened. So it's kind of like the thing where like, Hank Aaron was, a great player and he just sucked. I mean, at the end, it's just, so it's one of those things where, not to say she sucked, but it's just like, she was already considered the greatest before this happened. And this is Michael Phelps doing his last Olympics where he didn't finish.
Still won golds.
He still won some golds. And, that's just the thing is, I hate to put it in a thing of like someone that's, personally dealt with that kind of mental health thing where you just like can't do your job anymore. And honestly, I'll just give a quick personal story as, I work at a pizza restaurant. And I was doing close to 60 hours a week and I like couldn't do my job anymore. Like I literally couldn't something I did regularly and no problem. I like couldn't stretch pizza dough for a day. And I literally came home and told Janie, I was like, I think I had the yips. Like I can't, my muscle memory is all screwed up. And it's like, I think that week I ended up working like 63 hours. It was something completely gnarly. And that's when I decided I can't work this much anymore because my brain just can't put this together. So it's like, and I'm just making pizza. I'm not jumping through the air, and I don't have a worldwide audience. Right. I don't have a worldwide audience judging me. So, I hope the best. Obviously, I hope the best for her going forward. I mean, she's one of my favorite. She's one of my favorite Olympians. In my lifetime to watch. I mean, it has been super fun. It's just, but it's
hard to watch. Like from the standpoint of. This isn't like her situation isn't like LeBron James or Michael Jordan or Tom Brady get 20 cracks at this every year for 2 decades. It just sucks. Like, and maybe that's where I'm looking at it a little bit differently. It's like you've trained your whole life for this, and as a gymnast you get 1, maybe 2 cracks at this in the Olympics. And because gymnasts, she's 24, she's like ancient for gymnasts.
That is my next point. Yeah.
And so like you train your whole life for this moment, and then I feel for her in the sense that it's an opportunity squandered, but it's like you train everything, and it's you only get 2 cracks at this if you're lucky as a gymnast.
Right.
And so I don't know. I just feel like maybe, and the other aspect is if she felt she couldn't get the job done, she needed to pull herself out for the sake of the team. Yeah. My initial thing was when it was still up in the air, if she was going to come back and compete in the all around, I was like, that's bullshit. That's being a bad teammate. But now that it is more coming to light where it's like, well, she's not going to compete in the all around.
Yeah.
I don't think she should compete in the individual events either. I think at this point you just shut it down.
I mean, from what I've read, I feel like that's the direction it goes to.
Yeah. But I do hope, that things work out for her,
Oh
that
yeah.
she
I
gets
mean,
herself-
she'll be, I mean, I think, sometimes it's just too much and you get away from it and you recover and you move forward. A lot of people, I mean, last 5 years is where athletes have really come out about mental health, whether it's Kevin Love and Michael Phelps and different people.
Kevin Love's a bitch though.
I mean,
for different reasons. It doesn't have anything to do with his mental health. It
Sure.
just has to do with him just being a fucking money sponge.
I will just add, if you do need a mental health break, I can't suggest anything better than a nice cruise on Royal Caribbean. So get yourself out there. Summer is waning. So if you want to do a nice summer trip,
This is not a paid sponsor.
I would suggest Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines for a nice getaway, nice mental health break. Get out there, get somewhere where your internet doesn't work. You can't check your work email. Royal Caribbean, they're here for you.
Not a paid sponsorship.
Yet.
Media recommendations.
Like I mentioned, first episode of Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso, yeah.
Man,
just haven't
that is the
gotten
first
to it
time
yet.
it just hits you. It hits you. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's better than we probably deserve. Gossip Girl, so good in a completely different way. It's just so wrong, but I love it. Like I said, watching the Olympics, watching White Lotus on HBO Max, that show's crazy. I can't really recommend that enough. If you just like where every single character is terrible, you don't like any of them, I suggest White Lotus. And watch the movie Big Night from 1996. Stanley Tucci, Tony Shalhoub, Isabella Rossellini, and a little wiener dog is also in the movie, and he's adorable or she's adorable. But the movie's like these two Italian guys move to America, have a restaurant, and just it's funny, it's sweet. It's a very foodie movie. You see all the food, so it's just a cool movie. It was good. It's good to have a couple days off during a week to actually like sit and do things and relax and not work. So I recommend that. I recommend that to anyone. Don't work as much as you can and still live.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Marvel, I watch a lot of Marvel still. I have that just filtered in.
Yeah, I'm doing the Marvel rewatch. I'm on Doctor Strange. I will save my overall thoughts for the film for when we do phase 3 part 1, but I will say that I forgot how good the special effects are in Doctor Strange. Specifically, they're very, very appealing to the eye. We've been watching the new season of Big Brother. I'm not actually terribly interested in it. None of the people who are in the house are even like remotely entertaining to me.
That's
so
a bummer.
I may tap out on that. I'm trying to think. I started today. I purchased the indie game from Rainbite Studios, Trigger Witch. It is available on Xbox, Nintendo, PC, and PlayStation. I played about the first half hour of it. We're going to have Ty on to do a review of Trigger Witch here in the next couple of weeks. And then we also have something else that's down the road that's very exciting for us with regards to this game, but I'm just going to tease it at this point. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell the audience. Play Trigger Witch. 30 minutes in, I'm having a blast. I can't wait to play it more. I just wish I had more time today. It's just today is my long work day and then straight into the pod and stuff like that. I'm going to have next. I intend to watch this documentary called Tokyo Idol. It's on Netflix. And it's about how Japanese like pop idols are treated. Whoa. And it's they are treated like how we are aghast by how Britney Spears is being treated, which it's worth noting that she officially filed to have her father removed from her conservatorship. But we're all aghast at how Britney Spears is treated. But apparently in Japan, that's like all pop stars.
Yeah.
Like all pop weird. Idols. So I intend, like I heard about this movie on a podcast, and I intend to watch it. So I'm hopeful to be able to talk about that.
That sounds good.
Yeah. So Tokyo Idol. We'll see.
Tokyo.
We'll see if I get to it. There's never any real guarantees with anything. So BXG podcast publishes every Friday at noon p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Time, 7 a.m. Hawaiian Time.
And
Aloha.
no, aloha, but also like our Australian friends.
Yeah.
It's 2 p.m. 2 p.m. Saturday. So thank you, Hawaii,
I don't
for
think
listening.
that's
But I really want to shout
I don't think
out-
that's accurate.
It's different parts of Australia. So
Good day, mate.
but I'm just, because, like the T's, it's good to include our Australian friends. Good day, mate.
Yeah, it is good to
Aloha.
include our restaurant.
Aloha and good day, mate. Throw another
Yes.
shrimp on the barbie and have a Foster's. Sure.
On podcast services around the globe, Amazon, Google, Spotify, etc., Apple, obviously. Social media, facebook.com/BXG podcast, Instagram at BXG podcast, at GT Phils, at Y2B, Twitter at BXG podcast, at Y2B, at GT Philson, YouTube, where you can see the Sawbrock review with Dallas, the Space Jam review, the Army of the Dead or Darkness Shrugs review, among other reviews on a weekly basis. Dodger Dog making another just weird cameo.
You're shrugging.
First of all, also, I just want to say that we topped 2,000 downloads. I should have mentioned this at the top. We topped 2,000 downloads. My goal that I set for us when we started this was 2,000 in the first year. So we hit that in 10 months.
We did it.
So I'm pretty excited about that moving forward. And we're going to keep, trying to have other guests on. Got some things in the works, maybe trying to get on some other people's show. We had a great time. Listen to Tournament Style, the Shark Week episode with us. We're just going to keep trying to proliferate this podcast and get it into as many ears as possible. So please do your best and share this with all your friends. Share
And
it
your
with
mothers.
everyone you've ever met. Share
Yes.
it. If you're one of those assholes that has 5,000 Facebook friends, just hit share once.
Share it. Yeah, just share once. It's super easy. Do it.
Don't be a douche canoe. Tell your friends, tell your family
And tell your mothers.
about the unmistakable essence of the BXG podcast. Take care.
Thanks for listening.
God bless and good night.